Our yacht was sinking in admin and paperwork, but I found the solution. I used this productivity software called ClickUp to run our yacht like a business. It tracks our tasks, schedules, and documents all in one app. Now, state schedules are logged as a task, cruise scheduling is automated, and important docs are stored and searchable. What used to take me 3 days a month now takes me half a day. It's super customizable whether you're sailing a yacht or scaling a company. Get our custom yacht management template today when you try ClickUp for free at clickup.com/rich podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rich as Fuck podcast, the show where we talk about money, life, investing, and all things yachting. Today, I have Liberty Nogueira with me on the show. Been following her for many years on social media, and it's really cool to be able to sit down with you. Everybody, before we get stuck in, please remember that this show is purely educational and informative and should not be misconstrued as financial advice. With that being said, let's get stuck in. Good morning or afternoon, your side. How are things?
Good afternoon, Charl. Thank you. I'm excited to have this chat. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Where are you finding yourself now?
I'm in Portugal, so it's the end of the day for me. But yeah, I'm just in the south of Portugal, looking at the sea from land, which makes a change. But yeah, all going good. Thank you.
That's awesome. I can't wait to get stuck into that. So before we get going, for those that aren't familiar with you, what's your deal? How did you get into yachting? And how did you end up where you are now?
Cool. So I have had a pretty outdoorsy upbringing. So bit of sailing, bit of water sports. I went to uni, studied business and marketing, and then did what I thought I had to do, which was follow everyone, go to London, join the rat race. Did about 3 or 4 years doing that and thought, right, I'm 26 at the time, didn't have a dog, which I really wanted, didn't have a boyfriend, and didn't really have any savings, nothing that was substantial that would help me move ahead in life. So I thought, right, if I don't do something now, then I'm going to be stuck, basically. So I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she was a chef on a super yacht, and my rent was coming to an end in London in September. And I thought, right, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to go. So I joined the yachting industry in 2017 in September. Not a great time to join, but managed it. And yeah, I got a bit of day work, and then had my first boat. I was on it for 4 months, and then I was on another boat for 4 months. And then, yeah, the last program I was on for 6.5 years. So it's been a solid stint.
Yeah, it's really good longevity. 6.5 years on board is like working at the same company on land for 50 years.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was good fun though.
And did you, from the get-go, decide to go into the deck department, or did that happen naturally?
Yeah, so I was speaking to friends of friends that were in yachting, and I thought, if I apply for deck stew positions, it'll broaden my horizons and kind of it'll get me a job quicker. And luckily, a girl that I did some day work with, she said, if you want to work on deck, do not apply for any stewardess or deck stew positions. Just go for it. It might take a bit longer, but you're not going to enjoy it. And that was probably actually a really good bit of advice that I got. And I'm glad I did it. So yeah, always wanted to work on deck and was stuck on deck essentially. I didn't always know if I wanted to be a captain. I think people have that challenge quite early on in their career, but just kind of rode the wave and started doing some chief officer modules, which helped in my role on board as bosun. But then I just realised that I didn't actually want to become a chief officer either. So carved another pathway.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really resonate with that because I figured out really early on I don't want to be a captain. And it's kind of, there's this weird, I don't know if you've felt this, but sometimes when you say that out loud, you kind of get shunned. It's like the old salty sea dogs are like, oh, Poseidon is going to bestow his wrath on you. Like, how can you not want to be a captain and a master mariner when you're 24? You're like, because I don't know yet. Like, I'm just having fun. I like working outside. And quite frankly, we do all this to be outside and to be physical. And once you become a captain, you're back to having a desk job. So
yeah, that's literally the reason.
Yeah.
I said, if I'm going to sit at a desk and work, I'm going to work for myself. And that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. But
Well, we'll get into that. And first season, do you have any like core memories, funny stories that pops up in your head?
yeah, so my first season, we were pretty lucky actually. We were on a boat in Juan Lapin and we would have half day Fridays and go skiing like most weekends, which was sick. But we only had a crew car actually. And the crew car was a tiny little smart car. And I went with a couple of people. We were driving up the mountain and it was rear wheel drive and it was snowing hard. So we didn't get very far up the mountain. We had to literally dump it on the side of the road and hitchhike the rest of our way. But no, I'd say, yeah, that was pretty fun. And then when we came back to get the car, it was snowed in. So we literally had to dig it out. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best story from our first season.
That's a funny one to explain to insurance if that car ended up not working.
Yeah.
A bunch of pirates went up the snowy mountains and never returned with the smart car.
Yeah, I would not recommend.
So, Leb, you know that this show, I predominantly focus with the Yachting Investor on money habits, financial health amongst yacht crew, things like that. So,
Yeah.
for the next few minutes, I want to dig into that.
Cool.
You, having worked on boats for many years, you've obviously seen crew come and go. You've seen all sorts of great and terrible financial habits. What are some of the best and worst you've seen in your time on board?
Good question. I would say best habits is before you even know what you want to save up for, just start saving. Just say, right, whatever you think is actually doable. I mean, I think I started off saving like a third of my salary and then half. And then I didn't know what I was saving for, but then I had something that I could put towards a goal. And even better, invest it, work out what's right for you. I'd say that's one of my biggest regrets is not investing more earlier. I'd say, I'm going to sound really old when I say this, but drinking away your money, I'm guilty of it. We all are. Everyone gets a bit excited at the end of season, but I think living on land has definitely put that all into perspective. Like you really did not need to have so much, like such a big blowout. Nothing good comes from it, really. Well, the boat that I was on, we had limited time off, so you're wasting a day hungover, and it's just a waste of money. So definitely do it. I just save it for the really special occasions and make the most of exploring the cool places that you're at the next day, like hiking, seeing cool places.
That one really hits hard because you're right. We're all guilty of it. I had a pretty rude wake up call early on in yachting, but I feel a lot of times, especially if you get stuck with a crew and on a program, which is that's kind of the culture. Days off are not meant, days off are not generally meant for hiking or exploring or diving. It's where's the nearest beach club so we can go on a mass bender together. And you're right. Nothing good comes from it. And it swallows a lot of money. A lot of money.
It does. I mean, I wouldn't change any of it. I've had an epic time in some of the most amazing places that I would never have necessarily been to. But looking back on it, I think there could have been a bit more of a balance.
Hindsight is 2020, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and then one splurge you regret and one you don't.
I don't like to think that I have regrets because I think in the time, it was a good decision. I would say one that I don't regret, which is probably what I've spent the most money on with my husband, was our wedding. Like, absolutely would not regret it. But when you think about it, it's a lot of money to spend in a day. But wouldn't change it. Would definitely no regrets for that. But yeah, I'd say we saved up a fair bit of it together to pay for that. One that I do regret, aside from alcohol, I would say I bought this one handbag that I didn't need. I was walking through Heathrow Airport. I walked past Prada and I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's a really cool handbag. And when I tell you, it actually sounds ridiculous because it's literally it's a black handbag that's like got tiny little crystals all over it. So it's not like a handbag that you're going to use every day. And I just thought that's really cool. I'm going to buy it. And
give us a surprise.
It wasn't actually, I mean, It was, I think it was like £1,200. So it wasn't like crazy money, but practicality, I'd probably use it like once a year. Like I used it at my best friend's wedding for a black tie wedding. Like I don't use it all the time. So it wasn't the best decision, but do I look at it and when I do use it, do I love it? 100%. Yeah, it just was a lot of money for something that I don't use a lot.
That's a captain I used to work with calls that the steel curse, the forever addition to a handbag colony, and they all end up in the bulges because there's no space for them in the cabins.
Yeah, I mean, it's currently collecting dust. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for your honesty and transparency. That's a funny one. How did you handle the lack of balance we have on board and the intensity of it all while you were still full-time working?
I think it can be really hard. And I mean, we've all been there, very close to burnout. It happens. I think you have to choose a program where the people that you're working with pull you up and lift you up and motivate you, and it's easy to work with them. It makes a massive difference, because the moment that you work with someone that's not the case, it can make it very difficult. So I'd say, yeah, the people that you work with, try and have good relationships with them, choose wisely when you're picking your vessel. And then I would say just making time for yourself. Like, I'm quite into exercising. If we're close to land, try and persuade whoever's driving the tender to drop you in if you can early or at the end of the day to go for a run. Really cool way to explore. And if you don't have that, if you're not on a boat that has a gym or whatever, just sitting in the sun for like 5 minutes, having a cup of coffee on your break, like it makes a massive difference.
Yeah, it does. It's important to check in with yourself because we're sacrificing a lot being there and constantly stimulated by everyone else's requests that we sometimes don't really listen to ourselves and what our own needs are. So
yeah, for sure.
It's a great answer. And then I want to pivot to something that I think is getting a lot better in our current age, but is definitely still an elephant in the room somewhat. So being a female in an often male-dominated department. So you mentioned that you worked as a bosun. Like I said, many boats are getting better. My boat has a female engineer, for example, which is super cool. How did you find that, the entry into the industry and then progressing and then having to tell potentially younger males what to do?
I think at the time, so what's that, 6-7 years ago, it was really rare to see another woman on deck or in an engineering position. So that was a challenge. I wouldn't even really say it was a challenge. It just wasn't the norm. And I was very lucky on all of the boats that I've worked on, that the people that I've worked with, so the captains, the chief officers, chief engineers, they've never seen me as a female decky or a female bosun. I've been completely equal. The people that I've worked with have given me a lot of like trust and faith and responsibility, and that makes a massive difference. So it's the people that you're surrounded by. I know that's not the case for everyone. I know I've been very lucky. I know there are still cases where, people aren't treated as equals. But I think it's comparing 6 years ago to now, there's been a massive shift. Like you pull into port, you look around, it's not like, oh my goodness, there's a female captain. It's like, oh, cool. It's more normal. And that's what I love. And I think because it's more normal, I think the more that we make it a thing, the more it is a thing, if you know what I mean. Whereas now, like, it's normal. Like let's celebrate it. Let's empower people. And instead of thinking like that it's a negative thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. The rest of the world has caught up with it. Yachting's always a bit backwards with things like that for some reason. I mean, female CEOs have been a thing for the past few decades, even way before that. So I'm very happy that the stigma is no longer there and that it's very natural. And I think you were there at a time where the sea change basically just started occurring, because we started yachting around the same time. And you're right. When we pulled into port, I remember seeing a female captain dock for the first time in Ibiza. And I was the boss and I were looking, we were like, wow, that's cool. And now, like, great. So,
yeah. In regards to the last bit of that question, just about like progressing and stuff, again, it was never really a thing. I was quite lucky. The only thing I'd say, like in terms of the progression side of things, was like learning to manage people, because when you're suddenly a decky, you don't have any responsibilities, you're just a yes man, you get told what to do, and then you suddenly have, you want to be a leader and a manager, but then the people that you're working with are also your good friends. How do you find that level of, like, how do you find that balance? So I'd say that was a bit of a challenge, but I've never had a challenge in terms of, feeling like I'm not equal because of my gender. Yeah.
That's great, because that would be bullshit otherwise. You are in every way,
Yeah.
I kind of have a theory which is sometimes unpopular amongst my male cohort, but women's organizational skills, in my opinion, tend to be better naturally. And
100%.
they also tend to delegate a bit more empathetically. Like it's a lot of men are like, snap your fingers, you're like, you go do that, you go. And yes, sometimes when you're on charter and things are hectic and intense, you got to do that. But I've had female HODs where it's like, it's just so much more methodical. And like, it just makes a bit more sense. And there's like kind of a maternal instinct to the whole procedure.
Yeah.
So yay for women.
Girl power all the way.
And I was going to ask you to give me some advice to females stepping into these roles, but I actually want you to just cut the gender out of that altogether, and just a decky listening to this right now that knows he wants to become a bosun, he or she wants to become a bosun in the next 2 years. What would you say to them?
That's a good question. I would say act for the role that you want, not for the role that you have. So I don't know how it works I can only use my experience, but when there was a space for maybe someone getting promoted on the team for bosun, like that's your chance to step up and prove to everyone, like, this is why I should be bosun, and just learn as much as you can. Like, I think when you're new, I definitely got caught up in my own head thinking, like, information overload. I don't know this. I'm not confident in that aspect, this and that. Like, no one joins the industry and knows exactly what to do about every aspect of their job. Like, figure out what you're good at, figure out what you're not good at, like, learn how to be good at the thing that you're not good at, and just ask tons of questions. Like, find someone on board that's also going to invest time in you to help you progress. And just try and move on up that way. And also just, like, don't limit yourself to, like, just having your skills on deck. I think, upskill yourself as much as you can. There's different things that you can do in terms of painting, carpentry, learning to varnish and all that stuff, but have cool other skills, like learn to dive, learn to free dive, learn to fly a drone, like learn more cool shit in your spare time that can make you more hireable, basically.
Yeah, you're right. Kind of get out of your narrow echo chamber and diversify your skills. I've always been a massive proponent of smaller boats. I've worked on smaller vessels for pretty much my entire career. And what I value of that so much is on a single day, I would be in the bridge, I would be in the cabins with the steers, I would help the engineer with something with the Wi-Fi or with the engine services, and then be out on deck. So you're just constantly being immersed in a lot of different talents, which can then be transferable to other departments of life, because yachting's not forever for all of us. So I'm really grateful for that, because now I can make a bed really well. My girlfriend loves that. When I'm home, I can fix the Wi-Fi, or if something's wrong with the electricity, I can fix the washing machines. It's really important life skills that we acquire in this business.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So now let's talk about life after yachting. You are one of the most recent graduates of the hanging up the chamois degrees. How have you
Yeah.
found the transition to land life?
It's been an interesting one, I'm not going to lie. I think because I I had a life before and I had like a corporate, it wasn't very corporate, but I had like a corporate life before I did yachting and now I've kind of come back to it. I know what I don't want from that corporate side of stuff. So that's basically helped me figure out what I want to do now. But the transition, I'd say it's very different. The last year of my yachting career, it was pretty hectic. We pretty much circumnavigated the world in a year. And that really made me want to have like my own time, my own space. So like that's amazing. And it's the small things that I really appreciate, which to a person that lives on land and that's never worked in yachting, they don't really get. I'm like, I love going to the gym in the morning. I love cooking for myself. I love just having all of my stuff in a cupboard that isn't a suitcase. So yeah, I'd say the small stuff, but I mean, it is really hard. And like a few people ask me, what do I recommend? And I always say, just don't do it suddenly. Like I had an idea of what I wanted to do after yachting. I could have done a lot more, but because my life was so hectic on board, I just didn't really have the chance. But you want to have a plan and you want to start moving it forward whilst you're on board. And then it's kind of easier to step into. And also you want to save, like, let's be realistic. You're not going to leave yachting and earn a yachty salary on land, even less if you're going to start working for yourself. So you need to plan accordingly. Yeah.
Sound advice. Yeah, you got to kind of begin with the end in mind and then reverse engineer a life you envision for yourself, because many people, I think, have a horror season or something happens to them on board and they're like, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then they arrive on land and they like go for their first grocery shop and realize, oh, now I have to buy my own toilet paper and my own
Yeah. And this is how
tomato
much
sauce.
it costs. No way.
You're like,
Yeah.
how? What has been the absolute hardest adjustment?
I've probably got two. One's not so serious, which is I don't have a tan. And that is really annoying because I had a 6-year tan. And when you have a tan, you look good, you feel good. Whereas now I'm like, oh my God, this is what I look like in winter. So, I mean, that's just a bit of a jokey one, but I'd say, yeah, I mean, it's the money, if I'm honest. Like, I should probably pick something else, but it's definitely the money. Like, life's expensive on land comparing. I mean, when you're a yachty, you don't have, unless you've got a house already, like you don't really have anything to pay for, like, or unless you're sending money home. I know people send money home, but like, yeah, you have to plan a lot more your finances, but also, yeah, just try and going back to what I said about upskilling yourself, like all of those things that I said that can be outside your role on deck, like, okay, maybe not, well, even actually diving, free diving, like I started doing social media for Gene Machine when I just got the bosun role on my social media and on Gene Machine social media. And then like I learned so much doing that. And I'm using all of that now for my job on land. So just, yeah, try and have a side hustle, like have something that you're interested in that isn't your main job that can maybe prop you up when you learn to transition onto land. Because I mean, let's be honest, unless you want to be a captain, I mean, even not really chief steward, like you're not going to work on a boat forever. Like, or unless you invest in property, like you need something on land to keep you going, basically.
And yachting prep you for well? And what did it not prep you for well?
What did it prep me for well? Oh, that's a really hard question.
You can pass, you can phone a friend.
No, I'd say just to be flexible and have like adaptability, not just in the people that you meet. You're working with all people, like people from all walks of life, different ages, like being in, like just having exposure to that is great, but also like learning that things can change and you have to adapt quick to itineraries, weather, like you've got to just learn to think on your feet quick. I'd say that's probably the biggest thing that it's taught me. And also like the value of things. like not only the value of money, but the value of like my perception now after leaving yachting of what I value has changed massively to what I thought I knew when I was in yachting. So that's been quite interesting. And what was the other bit of the question? Sorry.
What did it not prep you for?
What did it not prep me for? I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think anyone really like, you know, it's going to be hard work, but I don't think you know sometimes like how hard it can be. And especially at the beginning, like I wanted to learn as much as I could, as quickly as I could, but then do the job as quickly as I could. And I'd get a bit frustrated because I wasn't as quick as the other people or whatever. But I think, yeah, you've just got to like push through. And don't know if that's a good answer, but.
Okay. It is, and you're right. It's a steep learning curve. I don't feel like we'll talk about this enough. Yachting's fucking hard. You're on top of all these skills that you can't just half-ass things on a boat. You're working for billionaires that want things immaculate. And to be fair, they pay the amount of money required to make it immaculate. And then on top of that, you have to balance and navigate that with poor sleep, sometimes terrible living circumstances. And just for me, the biggest challenge is to stay motivated and engaged whilst knowing in the back of my head that I have zero control over my schedule. Like that in the beginning when I was a decky and you're like still starry-eyed and like excited for the next port, and then you reach that inflection point where you kind of plateau, and then you're like, okay, I bought tickets to this concert, or I have this holiday booked, but I'm pretty sure someone's going to rug pull me and fuck up my plans. I struggle with that a lot, especially in the past few years.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, my last boat, I can't really relate to that. I mean, it's probably not a great example, but I managed to go to all of my best friends' weddings and all of my best friends' hen do's in 1 year. And there was a lot of them. So yeah, I had a legend of a captain that managed to let me wiggle my way around. So yeah, very grateful for that.
Yeah, and that's important to note because those things happen. Like I'm not ungrateful for my situation. I get taken care of well and I get my freedom when I need. And it's important to yachties listening to this that there are gigs like that out there. And quite often people are too afraid to ask. Like the worst that can happen is no. Don't just assume your captain or the owner is a monster. If you tell them, listen, it's Granny's 90th birthday, I need to fly to South Africa, they'll probably say yes. And if it means a lot to you and they still say no, then you're probably not in the place where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. On my first boat, there was a letter from the captain just saying like, I will be really offended if you miss out on any major family events. Like, let me know about them and we'll see what we can do, which I thought was, great.
That's very commendable. Something some people can learn from that. So you mentioned that you did your transition back to land life, and we've discussed some of the challenges surrounding that. What are you doing now?
The magical question. So I left yachting about this time last year, actually. And in the meantime, just to kind of tick things along, I've been doing a bit of freelance social media marketing, just get a bit of income. But the main thing that I'm doing is I'm creating a online community. It's called On Deck. This is my setup for my courses. That's why I've got this microphone that does actually look a bit offensive, but I want to have good audio. But no, it's basically throughout my years working on deck, I built a bit of a following on TikTok and on Instagram, sharing a few tips of working on deck and my travels. And I used to get a few questions just asking how people join, basically. And I'm always happy to help people. And I just thought there's definitely a pool of people that I can help just with my insights, not only my insights, but from, speaking to a bunch of captains and chief officers. I think the challenge that there is at the moment is that the industry is growing quickly. The amount of green crew joining the industry is growing quickly, but I think the standards aren't quite up there with green crew. I think I'm also going to sound really old when I say this, but I think the younger generation think that it's kind of easy to just fly to on team and just get my courses and get a job. And for some people, they do land a job quickly, but the whole point of my course is essentially it's not going to be, this is how many colors, these are what colors that are in the anchor chain, or this is how you wash a boat. All of that stuff you learn on board. It's essentially a platform that will help them stand out with their CV, job applications, and just give them a bit of a reality check into what to expect of yachting and, how to act once they step on board in order to progress.
That's awesome. And how do people reach out to you regarding that? How do you onboard them? Plug yourself.
Plug myself. So I've actually got the Instagram handle. I haven't posted anything yet, but the handle is n.deck. And yeah, they can message me on there, or you can message me on my main Instagram, which is travel_with_Liberty. Would love to hear from you. And yeah, always happy to help. And, I get that not everyone has money to spend on courses. And I'm hoping that a lot of my content I'm going to be repurposing, putting out a bunch of free content. So yeah, always happy to help.
That's great. And yeah, good luck with that venture. It's definitely necessary. And I remember it was very daunting when I was a greenie, and it would have been nice to kind of have someone hand holding you. Yes, certain things you got to figure out yourself, but there are certain practices and tips that people can share with you beforehand, which you will just look like less than a dummy, quite frankly, before you step on board. So I wish you best of luck with that venture, and I'll be sure to share that with greens. Now, to wrap up the show, I want to hit you with some rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I think.
Okay. Best port you've ever been docked in?
I don't know what the name of it was, but it was when we were in the Maldives. It was epic. And so you had to go through a tiny little channel, and then the port was just one big circle. So all the boats were kind of pointing in. The water's like turquoise. Sent the drone up. It's probably like the sickest drone shot of a marina that I've got. So yeah.
That's so cool. I would love to see that. Most annoying crew habit?
There are so many.
Listen, give me 3.
Slamming doors. Just my cabin on my old boat was right next to the crew fridge, right next to laundry, right next to the crew mess. Basically right next to all the doors that got slammed. And when you're on night shift, it's not ideal. So yeah, I'd say slamming doors, just like not being respectful of shared spaces, just like not being tidy, cleaning up after yourself. And just manners, basic manners can go a really long way. And I'm also going to sound really old saying this, but like just small things, like helping other people out, opening a door, carrying something for someone, like this goes a long way.
It was my most annoying crew habit is on my old boat.
Oh yeah, that's thing is like I'm probably like guilty of a lot of them. Like I posted a TikTok years ago, it must have been like 2 years ago, that said there was a trend where you list off icks. So I was giving like icks about the crew, and people get so offended. And it's just stupid things like when you're wet on a jet ski and you look like a wet dog, or like you're wearing those awful bucket hats. And so many people come at me in the comments. I'm like, guys, I'm definitely responsible. Like I've done all of these things. Like chill out. It's kind of satire, but yeah, keyboard warriors will always be there.
It will, and it also means you're doing something right once you start.
Once you've got some haters. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Off at the top. What was your favorite off-charter ritual?
Off-charter ritual. I mean, it's a bit
a habit that was non-negotiable. Anything in that line?
Like if we had enough time, there was always a run club, and even when we had the boss on, like if someone wanted to go running, you just kind of spoke to the HOD, and you could see if you could start your shift a bit later, and we'd go at like 6 a.m. before the shift start up by the airport in St. Bart's, around the little lagoon and back. And it's such a cool way. You're literally escaping from the boat. Like you want to be somewhere that you're not looking at the boat, and you're doing exercise, you hang out with people that you like, and it's a really cool way to just explore, because otherwise you don't really go that far from the boat. What, you go to the bar and that's it. Like it's the best way to explore the cool places that you go.
Yeah, it's a great answer. I do the same. Sometimes I run very far away, so it takes me a few weeks to come back to work.
Yeah, you've just done your blooming ultra or whatever. You're crazy.
Yeah, that was gnarly, but it's good. It's good to get feet on the ground after long season at
Yeah.
anchor for sure. And then finally, to wrap things up, what advice would you give to 20-year-old Lib?
Oh, 20-year-old Lib. Oh, 20-year-old Lib, like yachting related or life advice?
Life.
Oh, that is a deep one. I would say, oh, I'm trying to think of something that doesn't sound really lame, but I'd say, like, firstly, like, sounds so lame, but like, trust the
No.
process. Like, just, it's all gonna work its way out. Like, I thought it was the end of the world because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But, yachting came around the corner. And also, just don't take shit too personally. Like, nothing's ever that deep. I think that's a really good bit of advice, actually. I can't claim that was from Dane, one of the chief officers I worked with. But yeah, like, don't take it personally. Like, if someone has asked you to do something, you don't really like the tone of their voice, like, don't read into it too much. They're probably having a bad day or whatever. Like, yeah, it's never that deep. And also, you're working on a floating hotel. Like, it's really, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not the end of the world. Like, yeah.
We are all main characters in our own lives, and I think we forget that we actually don't matter that much.
No, I think, yeah, it definitely can, like you said earlier, it can put your blinkers on where you forget that there's a whole other world out there.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to end things off on a light note. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I had a lot of fun, and I hope people will learn from you today. Finally, you mentioned that people can reach out to you on Instagram, TikTok, on all your handles. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate your time. Thanks again.
Loved chatting to you, Charl. Thanks. Yeah, had an amazing chat. And yeah, happy to help anyone that is looking to join, or if they're stuck with anything on deck related, yeah, shoot me a DM. We can chat.